Hello to the three of you, Erin, BL, and Suyin. Hello, and thank you so much for joining today's Zoom meeting. I'd like to ask you 3 questions centered on social media. The first question I have for you is, what are some advantages of social media? I guess I'll go first. Sure. One advantage would be a heightened awareness. It's easy to disseminate information, to see how friends and family are doing, to catch up with news and current events. With the advent of social media, significantly more information can be quickly accessed. One more. Oh, go ahead, Suyin. One thing I'd like to add, to your point, Erin, I agree. I can pull an example from my personal experience as an international student studying in America. One pro of accessing information via social media is that it's far quicker and less expensive compared to my home country, in which every month I had to buy a newspaper and read to keep up with the news. Keeping up like this became impossible, and you save a lot more money and time by relying on social media for news. That's a good point. I had similar thoughts. Access to information is much easier when using social media. We have the opportunity to know what's going on in the world at our fingertips, which is cool. We know what's happening on the other side of the planet. We're also able to find new perspectives on different topics we may not have otherwise known about, and so a lot of learning takes place. As Erin mentioned, social media is a way to stay connected to family and others, even people we've never met. A relationship can begin online, and through instant messaging, you can interact and get to know somebody. You may even meet in person, so the social possibilities of that are really cool. Yes, I remember how people had to socialize when COVID first hit, and we weren't allowed to meet in person, so social media really helped us connect and finish our schoolwork during that time. For my second question, I'd like to add to this point before we move on. Of course, now the thought escapes me. No. Yes, pictures and videos. Social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook allow you to post personal videos and pictures, and makes it easy to look back and see past memories. I remember I saw a picture from when I was a member of Doves, which was quite a while ago, and ADC, again, quite a while ago, and it was really nice to look back. Yes, social media can be really powerful in that way. Now, for our second question, what are some cons or disadvantages of social media? I'll go. I think a lot of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Content we read, articles, news stories, etc., often don't provide full context. So that's why it's important to read books, because typically books provide a broader perspective. Something I actually really like about social media are the inspirational quotes. They pop up in your feed, and I find them quite touching, but those quotes are from a book. So there's more context surrounding the quote than something you might see on social media that stand alone. With that, you get full context rather than what you get on social media. Something you may have noticed with the recent incident that occurred at the Oscars with Will Smith and Chris Rock, that slap went viral immediately, but the context was left out. Often, consumers decide who they side with or are willing to support with limited information, and situations are more complex than many of us realize. Most people feel that what Will Smith did was right. Chris Rock shouldn't have said what he did. Yes, all right, fine, but what people usually don't know is that Chris Rock has a disability. He's not allowed to make it visible, and it's a form of Asperger's, where a person isn't able to recognize social cues. It's easy to say you don't agree with something someone says, but it's important to take other factors into account as to what may be behind such comments. That's just one example of many. Chris Rock may have felt that comment was harmless, considering what may have made Will Smith decide to slap Chris Rock, and seeing things from his angle is important too. It's a complex issue. I'm not saying that Will Smith was in the wrong, but many people have mocked Chris Rock without knowing he has a disability, which is important to recognize. Balancing complex topics is difficult, and people should gather more context before commenting. So true, so true. And to add to BL's point, often scrolling on Facebook, content will suddenly appear on my feed that I'm not mentally or emotionally ready for. I remember one time when I was on a break at work, I checked my feed on Facebook and saw bombings in Syria with a live video of suffering parents and children, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to watch. I was really taken aback by what I saw. I had to take a minute to collect myself before I returned to work. It's content like that I sometimes struggle with, because you don't have full control over everything that appears in your Facebook feed, and so I would consider that one con. Another thing to add would be, since COVID hit, people have spent far more time on their phones and devices to the point where they've become reliant or even addicted to them. It could be all day and even all night that they're staring at a screen, which often leads to depression and anxiety of some kind. That's true. It's easy to lose your sense of time when you're scrolling through social media. Hours can pass without you ever noticing. For the final question, what advice, tips, and/or messages can you give to those who recently began using social media? To those who have been consuming social media, and students studying on reading day? Currently, I don't have Facebook on my phone, so that's one tip. I don't look at Instagram as often as I used to. I started reaching out and inviting friends of mine to meet in person instead of looking at their status. When I see their posts on Facebook, I already know from their stories what they've been up to, which doesn't give them an opportunity to share their news with me more personally, so I've stopped checking their posts. Now I've gotten hooked on Pinterest for craft stuff. So my advice would be to find something you like that isn't exclusively monitoring other people's lives. Also, Facebook is a reflection of our fast-paced lives. Many people engage in social media frequently, but I think it would be helpful for a professional company to focus on creating a way to reduce online dependence. For example, they could include reminders in phones that after an hour of online time, your phone shuts off, or after a full day of use, a reminder could pop up to remind the user it's time to sleep. And if they ignore the reminder, then the phone will automatically power off. Okay. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I've got several thoughts running through my head that I'm trying to organize. First, I would recommend baby steps. I think people should try to find a happy medium. There's definitely benefit in paying attention to social media, but don't allow it to disconnect you from what's going on around you in your environment. Second, remember that everything is relative. Everything is based on your perspective, so it's important when a topic, a discussion, a suspicion, or query is brought up that you get all the information you can about it, especially if it's related to something personal, like a friend. Sometimes a person will constantly upload posts full of positivity when In actuality, they're not feeling positive at all. It's up to us to check in on them to make sure they'll be okay rather than only trusting their posts at face value. Don't always rely on one source of information either. Make sure you diversify your sources of information to know what's happening in the world. Remember, everything is subjective, so don't limit yourself to one perspective. Gain a broader one by collecting information from multiple sources. Social media can be really cool, but be careful not to become too invested in it. I'd like to add that teachers and students should focus on teaching both the positives of social media as well as the negatives. For instance, if children see their parents are spending exorbitant amounts of time engaging in social media, they'll internalize that. Adults should take more time to read children books or play with them outside, rather than sitting on their phones and perpetuating that behavior in the upcoming generations. It's a learned behavior. Yes, and we have to be careful. I really like all of your ideas and tips. Socializing with others face-to-face, balancing activity and screen time, and turning off your phone and devices to spend some valuable time offline. I'll definitely apply these ideas to my studies on Reading Day, which is coming up soon. Now I plan to turn off my phone while I focus on my studies. Once I'm done, then I can check social media. Thank you so much for brainstorming with me. I really appreciate all of your ideas. Thank you.